I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Hot Pursuit.
Hannah, we have a lot of cool things to talk about. Among them, air fresheners.
Yeah, I mean, this may seem like an inconsequential part of the automotive world, but I would beg to differ. If you start asking people what their opinions are about how a car should smell like or not smell like, and whether they should have an air freshener in there, you're going to get some strong reactions.
Yes. So I think it's interesting, and I've had some good and bad experiences. Also, we got a lot of responses to our question about which engines sound the best.
Yeah.
Porsche has an overwhelming upper hand in this category.
Yeah, but we got some very creative responses, I would say. In addition, I mean, Porsche is pretty expected, but we did have multiple people write in and talk to us about their Jeeps. We had some people mention the original Viper V10, which I thought was kind of cool. My mom likes the Viper.
But she likes the look of the Viper, probably not the sound. Because I think the comment on the sound of the Viper was it was like a bag of rocks, or I can't remember. I'm going to look it up right now.
Well, I think the guy had said that he liked it, but it was odd, and it sounded exactly like the UPS truck from that era, and he knows because he drove one back then.
Yes, exactly.
So that was kind of, I like that.
I love that.
That was a creative response. And then we got someone else who said the best sound is the sound of the garage door opening.
I thought that was brilliant,
cool.
You know, because it's so true. I go down to my garage, and I push this button. The garage door opener is like 20 years old, and so you have to push hard. And then when the door starts to open, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm finally going to get out on the road. And it is such a good sound. Also, that same guy said, he mentioned a boat pulling up a water skier. I thought that, I hadn't even thought about it, but there are a lot of great boat engine sounds. Where I go in the summer, we're right next to a popular boat gathering restaurant where people come, get super hammered, and then drive their super powerful speedboats home. And I always think, like, those hooligans, it's not a good idea. But I do like the sound of their engines.
Yeah, it's cool. Iconic. Very summertime.
He was saying a Ilmore 6.2 inboard. I don't know what that is.
I know nothing about boats.
But it makes me want to go out and find one. He said the GT350, which is something Jim Farley, who now is the CEO of Ford, before that, when they were developing the GT350, because it has the flat plane crank, he was always telling me about how great it sounded. It was a screamer like a Ferrari. And for some reason, to this day, I have still not driven one. So
that needs to change.
Yeah.
I know you have a really good list of cars coming up that you're going to drive. I mean, now's the time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But so I've never driven a Porsche V8. I mean, a Ferrari V8, which has that setup. I've never driven the new Corvette C8 Z06, which has that setup.
Such a good car.
And I've never driven the Mustang GT350. They all have this flat plane crank, and I haven't driven any.
Okay, well, you're putting out the frequency, so it's only a matter of time before it's returned to you by the universe, and I can't wait.
Yeah, so that was very cool, and we're going to ask for listeners to email us again, because I have a list of cars that I'm super psyched about. I'm test driving the next couple of months, and I want to solicit questions. So that'll be very cool. And then I drove a car that unexpectedly impressed me. And I think
I'm going to get it in a week or two. So I'm
you are
curious.
too. So should we wait to talk about it until then, or
maybe we should wait to compare notes? We can say what it is.
It's the Infiniti QX80, which is a giant land yacht, and it shouldn't by rights be at all exciting, I think. But I really did like it. No, I don't want to wait. I'm going to talk about it.
Okay, we'll wait.
I want to know.
You don't want to wait?
I don't want to wait.
Okay, let's dive in.
I want to talk about it for sure now, because I have not been impressed by any Infiniti vehicles ever. I don't have a huge history with the brand. I drove the old QX80, and I thought they need to put this thing out to pasture. Like, it needs to go away. But the new one, I think, just visually, it's so stunning. Have you Googled it?
Yes, I have. It seems to me that all of these 7-passenger SUVs are kind of starting to look the same.
Okay, so I don't agree because when I think of giant 7-passenger SUVs, I think of the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. You know?
You do? Oh, I think of like the Kia EV9 and the Suburban and the
a Suburban
Escalade.
also, obviously, but Suburbans feel like a little too big. When I drive a Suburban, I'm like, this thing has like a foot or two too much. But the Jeep Grand Wagoneer is the one I think of as the big honking, and I think it's a cool. I like to drive the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. I love the engine options for the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, but I think it is not a good-looking vehicle. In fact, I often wonder myself, did the designers actually get paid for that? Because it doesn't feel like they put in any work at all. It's just a big block, you know? And
you're saying the Infiniti looks different.
To me, the QX80 looks like something that I can't remember what they were called in the movie Dune, but I feel like the royal family in Dune, like the classy one, would drive this, you know, in a procession. I mean, it just looks hulking and powerful to me.
Where did you drive this? Like, how did you use it?
Okay, so that's a good question because it's not a car that you just want to drive on your commute, right? It's too big for that.
Because the parking must have been a bit of a challenge.
Well, where I live in Westchester, the city planners were smart enough to design for large vehicles. And I always take a little extra pride in the fact that at the Ridge Hill Mall in Yonkers, you can park 2 vehicles in most of the parking spots. So it's not a problem.
I'll keep an eye out for that.
I actually drove it all the way out to Bridgehampton.
That's a schlep.
Yeah, and every time I go to the Hamptons, I think every time I've ever been to the Hamptons, I do regret it on the way out, and then I say on the way back, I'm never doing this again. I don't understand why the wealthiest people in New York want to drive 3 hours in bumper-to-bumper traffic to get to a place that doesn't look any more impressive than Fire Island. Like, I really don't. I'd rather go to, Dutchess County. I'd rather be in Millbrook. Like, there's so many places. I'd rather be at Bear Mountain,
Yeah. I have to say, I think everybody in New York spends a period of time going back and forth to Long Island and the Hamptons and Montauk, and I certainly had my days and years doing that, and I would just drive back in the middle of the night just to avoid the traffic, And
True.
if it meant not drinking that day, I was fine. It was honestly worth it to just be able to drive back because you can make it in like 2 hours if you drive back at 3 a.m. in a Ferrari,
True.
for instance.
In a Ferrari, yes. Do you have a story about that?
I've got several stories. No tickets, but yeah, you can do it pretty fast if you pick your timing. Because you're right. It's really annoying to do it on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it's the traffic.
It's the worst.
So we have a place on Fire Island. My great-grandparents bought a place there like 100 years ago, literally. And I drive out there on a Thursday or on a Friday, and it's the same thing, but it's not as much. So it's bumper-to-bumper traffic, but it's an hour and a half. I still think to myself, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
I'd rather do a 3-hour drive with no traffic than a 1.5-hour drive in bumper-to-bumper traffic.
So you were in the QX80 in traffic.
Yeah, so on the way out, we were in traffic. We drove out there for the bridge, the car show in Bridgehampton, which, by the way, had some amazing vehicles, and I do want to talk a little bit about that. I drove back from the bridge at night, so we didn't have traffic coming back.
Good.
And the cool thing about that experience in the QX80 is they have sort of semi-autonomous driving system. I can't remember what they call it.
Level 2? Level 2.
You have to keep your hands on the wheel, which is annoying. But
so how is it actually autonomous?
You don't have to steer. You don't have, the cruise control is adaptive. So I got to try out that feature, and I found one of the faults of the vehicle. So I love the way it's designed. I love the way it looks on the outside. The interior is super luxurious. When I finally figured out the infotainment system, it's got like the Range Rover, the split, so the AC controls are on a screen below you.
Yep.
And everything else is above you. It's the Google system. So when I was like, oh, it's just the same as like in the Chevy. So I figured that out.
Quick question. Doesn't that make it seem less of a luxury object if you're saying it's the same as in the Chevy?
It does. Well, it's the Google system. So on the one hand, it does make it feel a little bit less luxury. On the other hand, it's easy to understand across those vehicles, and you can actually trust the maps function to give you good directions, or at least as good as Google Maps, which is like the best I've found so far. And I don't mind having the AC controls on a screen below me, and that was all good.
But you found a flaw.
The flaw to me is all related to the engine. It's a twin-turbo V6, 450 horsepower, 15 pound-feet of torque, and when they re-released, this is the 2025 model, they were like, for those of you who are worried about losing the V8, stop your crying because this has just as much power. Give me a break. I mean, I get that not everyone needs a V8, and I think this goes toe-to-toe easily with the Range Rover that has their V6 in it. I like it better than the BMW X7 in terms of design, but obviously the inline 6 is better.
What about any of the Volvos?
The Volvo has no standing when it comes to motor or powertrain. It's not good, But I mean, like, in general. Well, I think the Volvo is a beautiful design. It's one of the most beautiful designs out there across their range, right? They have really good-looking cars. But the fact that they're all like 2-liter 4-cylinders doesn't help. And
okay, so
they're Chinese
cross
cars
them off the
now.
list.
So
I think they're great.
You can't compare this to that though, right? Because it's a bigger class. This compares to a Cadillac Escalade, a Range Rover, BMW X7, and all of those have a V8 option, right? This does not have that option. You can't get it. And so what that means is if you're using the semi-autonomous, I don't know what to call it. If you're using the adaptive cruise control function, and it slows down for traffic and then has to speed up, it just takes too long to make it a smooth or enjoyable experience. Finally, I was like, screw it. I'm gonna accelerate and brake myself because
I just think anything that requires you to still basically half drive, you might as well just drive.
True.
I don't understand how that
you're right.
is helping.
Well, the thing is, if you're on a road, like if you're driving, what do you do? Like Los Angeles, Las Vegas in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
You can just turn it on and not worry,
Yeah, but you still have to have your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. So you might as well actually drive.
True.
That's what you're doing.
True.
I mean,
no, you're right. You're right. I agree.
I'm seeing that pricing here is kind of like around $90,000 to $100,000. Did it feel worth that amount to you?
It definitely. So I drove the $116,000 version, and it definitely felt like a great $85,000 vehicle.
Okay, so slightly overpriced.
It starts at 85 and it goes to 116, and I don't know.
You must have had the autograph.
The autograph,
the top end,
which made me feel, by the way, extra rich.
Wow.
It's like a cooler design element, the autograph plaque on the side. And and I don't know at what trim level this kicks in, but the Klipsch audio system was amazing.
Say that word again.
Klipsch.
Okay, I've never heard that word.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, they made like the ultimate reference speaker if you were like, moneyed and into metal, like Klipsch.
That was not me. But
they make neither. But I had a neighbor who, my buddy's dad was an eye doctor, and he was like the most successful eye doctor, and so they had these massive Klipsch speakers.
German.
It sounds German.
It sounds German to me.
And anyway, so in the Infiniti, they have that great trick that Mercedes has also, which puts two speakers right by your ear. One by each ear, right,
nice.
In the headrest. Yeah. And then there's obviously a subwoofer, and there's speakers all over the place. It's a very good audio system. I tested it across the range of music, and it was successful with everything. Very good.
Cool.
Very good speaker system.
I'm looking forward
to
getting
rare.
In this. Yeah, and to hear you say that, especially because I know you're sort of an audiophile. So I think I'm taking this to a polo match, actually.
That's
in LA.
That's
in
perfect.
LA.
That's
so
perfect.
that will hopefully match your experience or mirror it a little bit.
Well, of course, they were playing polo right down the street from the bridge car show.
Of course. Well, it's seasonal.
I will say that I saw in the parking lot for the car show, because you had to park like far away from the bridge, which was held on a golf course, and that's a really cool idea for the car show, but a bad idea, I think, for golfers, because their course was pretty
this
ruined.
Is not an original idea.
Anyway,
every car show's on a golf course.
I always wonder why though. Like, and if you go to an Ohio State Michigan game at Michigan in Ann Arbor, they have tailgating on the golf course, which is fun for us, but it must suck on Monday when you want to play around.
Right.
Because there's some divots. But no, so you had to park away from the show and then get on a shuttle and drive to the show. And I
would hate that.
It was awful. And they decided to do zero organization. Like you could have set up a line, but instead they just had clumps of people. And since everyone who goes to the Bridge car show thinks that he is more important than anyone else, everybody's trying to jump the line, right? It was tough. But the cars in the parking lot were amazing. I saw a bright orange Wraith. I wouldn't be able to drive it myself, but props to that person.
An orange Wraith.
Yes.
Now that is something.
Yeah, it was very cool. Obviously, since it was the Hamptons, there were a ton of Resto Mod Broncos because that's like the vehicle of choice.
The $300,000
for the Hamptons,
down home blue collar.
Exactly. And then I got to the show and I had a really great time talking to Tom Scarpello of Revology, and I got to check out a couple of his cars.
Now, did you drive one?
I didn't get to drive one, but
why not?
Well, because we were there at the show on a golf course, and I told him like, it doesn't like if I drive it within a half hour, I'm going to be impressed, right? Because
not necessarily.
Well, it's got a blown Coyote V8, so I'm going to be psyched after a half. But what we need to do is live with it for a week to see if,
of course,
like the door handles stay on. You know?
Yes.
Yes. So I said I'm not going to drive it now because I'm sure I'll love it. But if you had to drive it every day, if you have to go to a car show, if you have to commute in it, if you have to put a baby seat, then you know if it's really valuable.
I mean, even opening and closing the doors, I had that truck from Velocity, and the lighting in the cabin, after one day was on the fritz. The rest of the week.
I told him about that.
Yeah.
By the way.
And
I said that's why we need to live with the vehicle.
Yeah. No, you can't just have it for 30
On the other hand, you can
nothing.
see like they CNC mill the joints that open and close the hood. Like it looks like
everybody does. Every builder at SEMA does that.
Oh yeah. Well, I haven't been to SEMA, so I don't know.
Well, it's in November, Matt. So come on out.
Do you think, by the way, that's the? I mean,
you would love it. You would love it. Your head would explode.
I think for me it would be the best car show, which was what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's November 7th or 8th or 9th this year. You should. I mean, I'm not going, but I think you would really.
You know what? I think
it.
I'm going to give myself that as a birthday present.
You should.
Yeah.
Wait, when's your birthday?
November the 5th.
See, we're both November babies too.
Yeah.
This is why we get along.
Remember the 5th of November. Gunpowder, treason, and plot. I also saw a couple of singers at the show, and the owners were there too. So I was like, wow, it's so cool that this car that looks brand new and awesome has historic plates on it. And the guy was like, well, it's a Singer. It's a 964, but they redid everything. I was like, okay, dude, calm down. I know.
That's every other car in Beverly Hills. I do think living in California, you get very spoiled because, having lived on the East Coast for almost 20 years and now being in California, I love New York with all of my heart, and I always will. But there's one thing that Los Angeles and California has New York beat, and that is the amount of cars and the quality and the variety, and you start to get really spoiled.
I believe it.
For sure.
I mean, like Eric was telling us last week, he's like, I bought a couple nice sports cars to go out to dinner because that's like what you do in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just in terms of the options and the amount of people who can work on the car, and there are just so many more options, and the network here for supporting a car habit is just really, really developed.
Well, in places to drive, right? You have the Angeles Crest and
I mean, there are
all these famous roads that you can drive on, and we just don't have that here.
Right. This last weekend we were out at a place called the Old Place, which is it's in Malibu, but we drive through basically Calabasas to get there, and there are all these roads there's like this, there are all these driving roads, like the Snake and, Stunt Road. And it's a very, very big motorcycle place. Matt, you would love it. And it's this destination that people drive their car to on the weekend, and you just sit and you eat potatoes and, drink a pop and you watch the cars go by. It's really so cool. And it's so relaxing. I can't wait till you come to LA.
Yeah. You have Mulholland.
Of course.
You have that place like by the rock store where the guy takes
that's
all the
videos.
videos.
That's where the old place is.
Yeah.
That's on the way to the old place.
But believe me, I wish I lived in LA. I would move if the financial capital of the world was in LA. I would move there in a heartbeat. But I can't really do my show, my TV, my day job from there. But yeah, I would love to. Absolutely love to be there. Let's talk for a second about the air fresheners, because this is a common problem, so much so that I don't know if you remember the Seinfeld episode about the smelly car, and then also the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode about the smell discount, because Larry was looking at a car for his buddy, and his buddy couldn't smell, but Larry could smell. The car stunk. Did you see that episode? I can't remember that. I'm sure I've seen every episode of both, but no.
I mean, it's a common thing. It's like a thing that could be a deal breaker on a car, and it's not even mechanical.
By the way, this is another reason to see and inspect a used car in person before you purchase it.
I have to say there are two things we know are true. Everybody loves the smell of the new car. New car smell is like universally beloved and desired. But that smell is actually off gases from all of the components in a new car.
That's
obviously.
Funny because everybody wants to bottle that up and patent
but it's simply the smell of rubber and metal and plastic and even leather. It's just off gases from that new car. The other car smell that is kind of universally loved is if you are lucky enough to have a vintage car that is like marinated the smell of leather and wood and maybe just a little bit of oil and like maybe a little bit of sweat, but it actually smells really amazing. We all know that smell when you get in a good old car. It's like, oh, this is so cool. And again, like you can't really recreate that unless you have 50 years of good life in that car.
It's totally true. My uncle had an old VW Bug. When I still think about the car to this day, I think about the smell.
Yeah,
and I guess it was just the leather. Like? It was like leather that'd been in the sun for a long time, and obviously oil and gas, and it was just nice.
So do you ever use a car freshener? Like personally, do you use car fresheners?
I sometimes, in my Dodge Challenger, I'll put like really tacky air fresheners that hang from the mirror.
The sex wax?
Just to look. No, I use the Hawaiian lei, like flowers,
cool. Oh, nice.
Just to look a little bit like you would think someone who drives that car looks.
Right. Well, what I've found, and I did actually purchase and test 10 different, I tried to find the 10 most prominent car fresheners that I could, not the hang tag kind, except for one, which everybody recommended to me, which was the sex wax hang tag. The others
Wait, the sex wax? Like Dr. whatever sex
Dr.
wax?
Zogs.
Yeah.
Dr. Zogs. The $3 one that you can buy in like a gas station or something. The other ones are, this is actually, what I'm getting to is this is actually a really wide open white space that the people that I spoke with for this story are saying in the next year or two is really going to be looked at and explored by big companies. And I spoke with Dawn and Samantha Goldworm, who are twin sisters who have this company called 1229. And they sent everything from retail stores to Delta VIP lounges to runway shows. They've done work for Mercedes and Bentley. They're really amazing.
Wait, you say they sent these places?
Yes.
That's a verb.
Yeah, they sent these places.
They make them smell.
Yes, Dawn is an actual nose who made her way studying fragrance in Paris, and they developed scents for these places. In fact, they were telling me they developed this amazing scent for the Porsche VIP fleet of cars that takes important clients to the airline lounge, which is very cool. So they think about this a lot, and they both said to me when I spoke with them, this is a really, really big market that is about to explode. And so now you have companies like Diptyque, you might have heard of, or Acqua di Parma, or
I
like
love Acca di Parma.
Frederick Malle, like actually really good fragrance brands that are starting to develop really interesting fresheners for cars. And so what I'm getting to is I tested 10 of them, and the main thing that I discovered, I think the real through line that we can say for this is the more you spend, the better quality and the better the scent's going to be, period. Because the reason why the hang tag air fresheners that you get at the grocery store are so bad is because they're made with the cheapest everything, the cheapest fragrant chemicals and like cardboard. I'm a big fan of the diffuser types, which actually you can control how much scent is released. There are a few that have been made, like there's one by Memo Paris where you can sort of open and close a diffuser. It sticks onto the vent of your car.
Are all of these, really do they like sit on the dashboard, stick on the vent, or are they all like that kind of solution?
You can stick them in the vent. Some of them are like rubber medallions, which are really cool. Frederick Malle had these very cool rubber incense medallions that were $50 for a set of 4. That they had fragrances like Russian Nights or Jurassic Flower. But I actually did put them in, fortunately, my husband and I have a lot of cars. So I did actually put these in different cars that we have, and they certainly work.
I just wanted to point out, I'm test driving currently a Lincoln Nautilus, which in
Never
itself,
heard of it.
Okay, it's a really interesting. So they've kind of flipped the typical Ford dashboard over. Usually the Ford dashboard is like close to you and up high. Okay. This one is like way back against the windscreen, and it spreads all the way out. It's kind of cool. It's like you're driving a boat. But the most interesting thing about this car that every person who's gotten in has noticed is that it smells delicious.
Oh.
Like I took it to a lunch in New York and gave some people a ride home. Like, wow, this car smells good.
Really?
I brought it home. My wife gets in. She's like, damn, this car smells so good.
Is this an onboard diffuser that the car
I didn't
comes
really
with?
know what was happening. I thought maybe they just gave me like a brand new car that happened to have a delicious smell. Or I thought that Lawrence Ulrich was driving it before me and, he smells delicious, or Brett Burke or somebody,
Well, Brett for sure.
Yeah, Brett. Probably more than Lawrence. But I thought, maybe someone did perfume it a little bit. Apparently, because I wrote to Dan Barbosa to ask, and Mary Beth, who runs their fleet out here. So they wrote back and they say, the Nautilus is our first vehicle to offer Lincoln Digital Scent.
Digital scent.
Yes, it's a USB-like
mean?
cartridge that's housed in the center console. You can customize the feature in the center command screen.
See, that's cool.
And it smells so
very
good.
cool.
And it's like,
yes.
A lot of people don't like any kind of... my wife normally doesn't like a smell. She wants no smell.
Nothing.
But this is a smell that's good. And so far, I've had like 5 or 6 different people in the car. No one's been offended. Like everyone's like, that smells good.
What is the note? Is it floral? Is it leather?
I don't really
it tobacco?
know.
Is it peach? Is it vanilla? Throw some names out.
I can't really place it, and I'm not good at that. Like I don't have a very good sense of smell.
I find that a lot of men think that.
My wife can smell anything and everything.
Yeah.
So like, if
we need to get her on.
Going to dinner on Saturday and I like eat a gummy, she'll be like, "Hey, did you just eat a gummy?" I'm like, But she's like the. Have you ever read The Perfume, that novel by Daniel Susskind? She's like,
I have.
She's like the guy in the Susskind, Patrick Susskind.
Yeah.
And I suspect your twins are a little bit like that as well.
I think they are. They're fascinating. I kind of want to have them on. I mean, I'm actually working on a story about them right now that I don't think I can talk about yet. But they're really fascinating to talk to.
Well, I'm not a nose in any case, but I did notice that this Lincoln Nautilus,
that's cool.
Aside from feeling like you're driving a boat, I really feel like I should wear one of those captain's hats, like from Gilligan's Island.
That'd be cute.
Because
I think we should also note that Mercedes, I think, was the first major automaker to have scents inside their car, and that was back in 2013. So we have to give them props for really being ahead of the curve. And they had those, remember, I think you've probably seen them. They're little pots with the oils that are in the glove compartment. And those diffuse... the scent, which is really interesting. And I spoke with the scent expert at Mercedes who said they developed that idea because, naturally when we're smelling something or we want to smell more of it, we sort of waft the air toward our nose just naturally with our hand. And so when you have a diffuser in a car, that is recreating the same thing that we sort of do naturally. So her point was a diffuser is better than just a tag.
Right.
Just on principle, because it approximates what happens in real life.
Well, I mean,
that was interesting.
I have driven a Mercedes with that feature, but I feel like Lincoln has nailed it here.
Wow.
And a lot of times, like when you develop the idea first, it's not necessarily you're the best at it.
For sure.
Not that they're not good at it, but BMW I think also does it now.
Yeah.
And they offer different scents for different driving experiences as well, which I think is interesting. Like, what does going fast smell like as opposed to driving luxurious? But
scent is one of those things that we don't think about really first, but a scent is the sense most linked to memory. And this is something else that Don and Samantha told me. They're a fount of information. They said scent is actually the sense that you remember from childhood a lot of the times. So, we all have like memories of things, and that is the most closely linked with memory, which I thought was really cool.
That's totally true. I'm always chasing after certain, like my uncle's Volkswagen, convertible Bug, or for the longest time, my grandmother died when I was like 10, and I was always looking for her scent. And my mom would be like, oh, she wore, I don't know, White Linen by Estee Lauder. So I would go and try and get that, and that wasn't really it. And I was always trying to recreate it. And then I was at a cocktail party at the Racket Club about 15 years ago, and they gave me a glass of bourbon on ice. And I was like, oh, my God, that's my grandmother.
No way. Amazing.
And then I called my mom. I was like, I just smelled Nani. And she was like, oh, yeah, she used to start drinking Maker's Mark at like noon every day. So that makes sense. That tracks.
I love that. I love that. And I can totally see how even if she did wear White Linen by Estee Lauder, it wouldn't smell the same, because how a fragrance hits someone's own skin is unique to them. Like how that would have smelled just in the air on you would have smelled completely different than it actually smelled on her.
But the bourbon smells like
bourbon. Nailed it.
I'd be sitting on her lap when she's playing bridge, and she has a glass of bourbon that she keeps taking sips of, and it's going right past my nose. And now it's one of my favorite smells. I want to quickly go through a list of the cars that I'm going to be driving in the next couple months, and encourage people to email us, because hotpursuit@bloomberg.net is our email address. We've gotten some really good emails over the last week, and I want to get more. And I was thinking, I'll tell you what cars I'm going to drive, and then you ask me questions about, or tell me like, hey, if you're going to drive the Cayman, check out this or that. First, I'm driving the 718 Cayman. It's a GTS. I just got this one, and so only had 1.5 hour of seat time in it. But the first thing that struck me is that it's a PDK. And it's like, if you're going to get a little roadster or a little sports car, don't you want the stick? I don't know who.
Well, yeah, but I don't think you can judge the whole car just on not having a stick.
It's just weird in a Porsche to pull back a gear shift lever and have it go clunk, clunk, clunk into drive. That's, to me, that's what, like a car feels like.
That's what all the pros do. That's what every pro driver does, and that's the bulk of Porsche. We talked about that manual story I just wrote last week for the magazine, which it's still online if anyone wants to go refer to it. But that's like everybody these days. That's the bulk of everyone.
I just felt like if I get into a Porsche, I feel like there should be 3 pedals, and then I'm missing something and I feel like should have to pay less if I don't get all 3 pedals in the manual Anyway, that's just my own thing, and I'll figure out. Maybe over the next week I'll be like, this is awesome.
I think all I know is whenever I ask like the pro drivers out of the track, what car do you like? They really love a GT4. They really love the 718 in general, because they say it's really balanced and really predictable, and it's just fun. And it's all about like, are you okay not being in a 911?
I'm sure I'm gonna love it, but I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, so I like a 911 because it's roomy. Now, Matt Farah, who's I think taller than me and is a bigger guy, he obviously likes the 718. So maybe I'll love it too.
It's honestly, people who are secure with themselves and who have driven a lot of Porsches love it, because you get a whole lot of car for under $100,000. And it's so fun to drive.
But you do want the manual, right? Isn't that part of the fun of driving it?
I guess, but I think you can have fun without a manual.
If you're going to buy one,
transmission.
Hannah, you would buy a manual.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
All right, next week I'm going to drive, I don't even know what this really is because I keep pestering. I want to drive a Cadillac CT5V, the Blackwing. But instead they're going to give me the Cadillac CT5 Premium Luxury. And I'm actually pretty interested to drive that because we know that the Blackwing is going to be killer. It's an awesome,
Has to be.
race car. But I wonder if it can still be just as luxurious because I drove the CT4 V Blackwing. It was awesome, but it's like very taut suspension. It's stiff. In terms of Cadillac luxury, I think of my grandmother's like 1972 Eldorado.
Well,
that thing was a boat.
Right, and I was just gonna say, if you have to say it, it makes me wonder whether it really is. It's kind of like being a lady. If I have to say I'm a lady, it kind of makes
calling it the premium luxury is a little much.
Also, it's a little on the nose.
It's also like. Is it premium and luxury?
I mean, again, words seem to mean nothing in the world of car marketing.
Okay.
And this is a great example of it doesn't actually mean anything.
I'm still looking forward, and it gets great reviews. Aston Martin Vantage Coupe.
Yes.
I can't wait because I go to the Aston Martin, like the little store they have on 57th and Park, and I love the way it looks. But you have spent real seat time in this.
Yeah. I want to be very clear. It's absolutely a big improvement over the predecessor. And it absolutely is a very fun car to drive. I think perhaps when we spoke about it earlier, I said, which I believe and is true, there are, to me, better options in the market. This would be like my third choice. Doesn't mean it's a bad car at all. It's really fun. It's great. It's like up 30% in horsepower over the previous model. It's has way more torque. It's stiffer. It has less understeer, all the great things. Would I still prefer something else if I only am getting one and I'm spending $200,000 on a car? Maybe.
Ugh, that's the killer part.
That's the thing.
Because I love the Vantage GT from 2010, 2012. And what I loved about it was, it felt super analog. It still had, I think, hydraulic steering. And B, the price wasn't terrifying. It was definitely less than $100,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes back to, obviously, these are not apples to oranges comparison, but that goes back to the little 718. That's a lot of car that you can have a lot of fun in for half the price. And obviously, that car, performance-wise, the Aston Martin is not, it's obviously a faster, more powerful, bigger car. But I'm just saying, sometimes you can have just as much fun in something that's a lot smaller and lighter. But yeah, with the manual. But
True.
I'm really excited for you also to hear this Aston Martin, see how you feel about the engine note.
No, me too. I'm excited about everything that has to do with that Aston Martin. I cannot wait. I'm obviously a little bit of a fanboy in that.
Do you know what color you're getting?
No.
Okay.
But I think in my head it's a really
Green?
deep blue.
Oh, blue.
Just because that's the color of the one that's sitting in the window at.
The puppy in the window.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Then I'm getting the Mercedes S63 EV4, which
So electric.
I guess that's what it. Yeah, it's going to be the electric S63. Whoa. So it'll be the faster version of the S class, and
that'll be really interesting considering how you felt about the last Mercedes you drove.
I loved the last Mercedes.
No,
I
you
drove.
didn't.
No, you're thinking of two times ago. So the GT63 I didn't like, and then the CLE I absolutely loved. The CLE 450. I was gushing about it. That's the red one that Edna washed in my driveway.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But that had the inline six. And I liked it, and that was a $70,000 inline six. I liked it so much better than the $200,000 twin turbo V8.
That still surprises me.
I know, it surprises me too, and maybe I'm an idiot, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, heart wants what the heart wants.
But the I'm driving the EV with an open mind. I liked their EV SUV EVs in terms of luxury.
It's a tongue twister. Cool.
And stuff. So then I have the Jaguar F-Type R Dynamic convertible.
Now this one, I'm like, why are you even driving this?
Kind of
how did they give this to you? Because this car came out in 2015.
I know.
So
And
so
I think it's like the swan song. I think they're on their way
Yeah.
out. I feel like this could be the last year or one of the last years for this car at all, right?
you know,
They're not going to make
I
any more.
I loved them when they came out. I thought they were really cool. They looked awesome. They were priced very competitively. It was fun to drive. It had a personality. It had a sense of purpose. But it's a little long in the tooth. You know?
Yeah,
and
I know,
before
but
the F-Type, it was like we had the XK in 2006.
Loved that too.
That was 20 years ago almost. This is approaching vintage level.
I know, but you know what? It still has the supercharged 5-liter, you know, that when like the old Range Rover engine, right? That's gone.
Yeah.
This and that the F-Pace had that I absolutely loved as well. Look, first of all, beggars can't be choosers. I'm happy to
Sure.
test this car. And
I'm curious why they want you. I mean, obviously, so you talk about it, I guess. But what's the news?
it's going to be my first time driving an all-wheel drive F-Type,
Okay.
maybe.
right.
I'm excited to drive it. I just love that motor. It sounds so good.
No manual available. Are you prepared for that?
There won't be a manual, right?
Do you expect
Neither
a manual in
fact, I
your
don't know if I'm
coupe?
gonna. I haven't had a manual yet, right? The Cayman that I'm driving is PDK. The Cadillac is obviously not going to be manual. The
Vantage,
Aston Martin,
no.
they don't make it in a manual yet.
Nope.
The EV Mercedes not going to be manual. It'll be fast and luxurious. This Jag, not a manual.
Let me ask you this. Why do you expect a manual to be in the 718, but not the Jag, which is also a small coupe?
Just because I've been around for the whole life of the F-Type, and I know that they only put a manual in the V6. So I'm just...
So you're saying the supercharged V8 trumps having a manual with a smaller engine?
No. They're very different vehicles, right? The F-Type isn't a little sports car. It's
pretty small.
It's a Grand Tourer, though. I mean, it
doesn't have a back seat.
It's just for driving around, and it's not really meant for taking on the twisties. At least the ones I've driven.
But
And the Cayman, I
you're
think
getting the
Cayman
R-Type?
should. It's like the kind of car that should only come with a manual.
Wait a second. You are getting the R Dynamic, which again that means nothing, but that is supposed to mean it's performance oriented.
Yeah. But I don't expect that kind of performance out of it, and which is why I'm not going to
We
be worried
expect
that it
more
has
from
like a
Porsche.
CVT
Okay.
transmission.
All right. Okay.
We'll talk about it when I get there,
Yeah.
but I think I'm probably going to like it and think like this thing feels like it's 10 years old,
Yeah.
but still like it.
I mean, let us know how the infotainment holds up these 10 years.
I'm pretty sure they haven't
by.
updated it.
Right. It's wild. Like, what is going?
It's so weird because they have updated the F-Pace infotainment and they haven't updated the F-Type infotainment.
Man, maybe the F-Type will be cool to collect in like 20 years.
And
it'll
you'll be
be
able to get
really-
it for a song.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And then to round up, I think I will be getting finally a manual transmission car. I
That's
think it
cool.
will be. I'm not sure, but it's a Subaru WRX TR.
That's fun. That'll probably be the most fun out of this whole group.
You think?
Yes, I'm going to predict that now. If it's a manual, you'll come back smiling most about that.
That does
Right?
happen. I remember my first time test driving a 911 in Germany. I spent a week there with a Carrera 4, and it was a PDK, and I thought, oh, this car is so cool. It's so much fun and so fast, you know. But then I came home and drove my brother's old Audi A4 wagon, you know, with a stick, and I was like, this is so much more fun. Because it does
totally
make
get
that, you know, if you're not on the track, if you're not looking for lap times, it just adds another element of fun as long as you're not in traffic.
Yeah, that's so true. I know a very cool stat about, you said it's a WRX, right?
Yeah.
Subaru told me that almost 90% of WRX sales are manual as of August 2024.
I
That's
love
the
a good take rate.
which is awesome. And for the BRZ, it's 80% manual take rate, which that's very cool.
I mean, I feel the same way about that as I do about the 718. If you get this car and you get an automatic transmission, shame on you. Shame on you. Unless you're taking on the track, in which case, you got other things to worry about than shifting.
Fine. All
right.
That'll be cool.
So email me if you have any questions about any of those cars, and I'll keep telling you, throughout the next few weeks. But hot pursuit at Bloomberg.net. I just want to quickly talk about where you're going. You're going somewhere, driving something amazing, and I think it's going to be amazing. I love this brand.
Too.
And then you're going to talk to someone very interesting and powerful.
Yes. So I'm going to Zurich, Switzerland to drive the new Bentley Continental GT, which is their V8 hybrid V8. So I hope that's suitable for you, Matt. I hope that's enough.
I love a hybrid, especially if
I know
it's
you do.
hybrid for performance reasons and not for economical reasons.
Yes, as my mom calls them, the hybrids. We love the hybrids. And this is like, I don't know, over 700 horsepower, more than 738 pound-feet of torque. It's like a real beefy one. And then I'm going to talk to their
And it's beefy, right? It's still going to be pretty heavy, I assume.
Completely. And, Bentley also has a new executive at the top, Frank Stefan Walliser, who was the head of Porsche Motorsport. So this is really interesting because I think Bentley has really ridden a very strong wave in the last few years, but also they need to say what they're going to do next. What can we look for in the future? And so when they have a German coming in who was leading motorsport from Porsche and now he's running Bentley, it really makes me wonder, what do we have to look forward to? Is Bentley going to go even more strongly into this performance segment category? We'll find out.
I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Me too.
I'm sure that, the workers at Crew also have thought, wait, what? But they've dealt with Germans for a long time, so they're used to that. And I can't wait to see what you think about the vehicle. I can't wait to see it.
Me too.
Because that, speaking of long in the tooth, right?
I know.
The Bentley Continental GT has been around since like 2006.
It's been around for a while. I have been on the configurator already, and they've got this Continental GT Speed First Edition, which is super cool. And it comes in like this liquid metal color, which is really pretty.
Is it the acid green?
No, I don't think it's acid green.
When I go to the Bentley website, that's the first thing I see is that acid green Continental GT.
Oh no, they're calling it Quicksilver. It's like a Quicksilver. I think there may be a drop of green depending on the lighting, but they're calling it Quicksilver. It's like this sort of liquid metal color for their first edition. I'm super excited to try
I like
it.
that.
Yeah, and I hear it's going to be cold and snowy in Zurich. And we're actually going up in the hills toward Andermatt. So
it's going to be all-wheel drive.
Yeah, good thing. I'll look forward to that.
There's a really
and
yeah.
While I'm on the topic, next week, speaking of British motor cars, we've got Rolls-Royce CEO Chris Brownridge coming to speak with us. He's going to be in the studio with you and on TV with you, and he is also new at Rolls-Royce. So this will be great.
I'm very excited, and thank you so much for the intro. And he's going to come on my TV show, which is going to be great. By the way, when you're in Zurich, there is a store, like a denim store. With a place for if you want to buy some horsehide engineer boots. It's called
What's the name?
VMC.
VMC. I actually am taking an extra 2 days in Zurich after this program. I'm going to go there.
I mean, it's a nice little town, and I guess they have wealthy, trendy young bankers living there because they have some really cool...
Is that an oxymoron?
No, that's where they started, and they have because of that they have fantastic if you're into that kind of thing, like workwear stores, denim stores.
Does it? Wait, have you been to this store? You've heard about it. Okay,
so
is it like a little bit like a costume, or does it feel authentic?
It will. The people that work there and are hanging out in front, they look like they're definitely wearing a costume.
Okay, all right,
like a rockabilly kind of thing.
This is their
yes, but if you
lifestyle.
Don't have to wear the whole outfit, right? If you
just pick one piece.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm for sure going.
Exactly.
I've also made a reservation at a very cool-looking bar in Zurich called Kronenhall Bar. Have you heard of this place?
No.
This was a recommendation by my good friend, David Coggins, who is a man of mystery and a man about town. And if you Google It's Kronenhalle.
Kronenhalle.
Yeah, it's sure. There you go. It looks proper.
I'll check it out.
I can't wait to go.
It does look pretty sweet.
Yeah. Looks like my kind of joint.
God, I love German-speaking countries so much.
I know you do. I do feel like that is your spiritual, natural home.
Yeah, I belong there. All right, that's all we have for this week. We'll get back to you with more next week, same time, same place. I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Bloomberg.
Oh, and please remember to email us. hotpursuit@bloomberg.net.